I'm here with Gavin de Becker, who, amongst other things, is an expert on the behaviour or the anticipating the behaviour of people who may be violent, both in a terrorist or a domestic situation. That's kind of your stock and trade, right? I remember reading in your first book, you talk about it's a good idea not to watch the local news that much, given the fact, because you always see stuff that'll scare you. Do you think that the media, and I mean, I'm kind of leading you with this question, I guess, but the media hypes up the fear for their own benefit?
Sure, that's the business they're in. The business they're in. 45 hours every day in every major city of new, original production designed primarily to cause fear. And a lot of it aimed at women, which is to make women believe that you can't possibly protect yourself and that only men can do it for you. And so you have all these scare stories. You know, they really ought to begin the news, I'll say the Channel 2 news, with, you know, welcome to the Channel 2 news, we're surprised you made it through another day.
Right.
And here's what happened to everybody who didn't. And then there's the death litany, all the ways we die.
And how do they actually, I mean, because obviously these things are happening, they're not making up incidents, but how do they report them? Is there a style of reporting?
There is both. There's a style, and there's also the fact that today in the satellite age, we get the news from anywhere on Earth that an airplane happens to fall to Earth, we get the footage. Right. So you're getting on a plane, you think, oh, I saw that terrible airline disaster, and so it's with satellite. I remember being in a hotel, and I saw a terrible fire downtown on the news. And it was muted, which is my favorite way to watch the news. It looks great. Very serious. You don't.
A lot of people watch me that way, you know.
I didn't realize you had sound until I got here tonight. Anyway, they have this. They had a fire, and you see the ambulances, and you see all that stuff, and I think, oh, I better learn what this is. And you turn it on, and it's in Caracas, Venezuela. Right. That fire can't possibly interrupt my plans for the day. It can't hurt me in any way. So we get police chases that are from Australia and New Zealand. We get it all every day. There is enough in the world to do it. And then there's the strategies. The after 9/11, for example, they used, I saw a story about a cyclone, and it said, next up, direct hit on a small town. Well, they know what we're thinking about, direct hit on a small town.
Of course.
Or terror in the sky. That was a story about a very turbulent flight. Right. When we hear terror in the sky, we think, oh, geez, it's another terrorist incident. Right. So all of the language that's used, all of the, you know, the warning signs. Next up, an expert tells you the warning signs you need to know about such and such. In my office, we've got this joke that it'll be, next up, burglars who hide out in your purse and rob you when you get home. And then there'd be the warning signs. Purse extra heavy. You know, voices coming from purse. They're all like that.
I've had voices come from my purse. But what profits? I mean, because no one really does that. I can't believe that people just do that just to scare you. What's in it for a news organization to scare you? What's in it for them? How does it turn into money?
I'll tell you exactly how it turns into money.
Because that's why they'll do it.
You know, 100 years ago, the town crier would go down the street and say, 11 o'clock and all's well. And the town crier of today, the local news, goes down the street and says, 11 o'clock and mother's milk causes cancer in children. Right. Anything to get our attention. What happens, to answer your question, is nothing gets our attention like fear. Right. You can't hear, next up, an expert tells about the dangers of dust to your children. Vacuum cleaners can kill your children, and not, you think, oh, shit, I got to watch that now.
Right, of course, you have to.
And next up, turkey that killed 4 on Thanksgiving. I got to watch about the turkeys. Yeah. And so it's the only one you never hear is, next up, a new study that says television news causes stress, suicide, drug addiction, and hypertension.
Yeah, right.
All true, by the way.
Tell you that.
Yeah. Good to hear that applause.
Take that, hand that feeds me.
We go right into the news now, right, of course.
How then, slightly moving off that a little bit for my own personal safety.
Sure.
How should we mark this day, in your opinion? How would you remember the terrible events of 2001?
Well, I think that, to me, an important thing to take away from this is that in these last 6 years, we have not had another transnational terrorist incident in America. The only one we had that was close, the man who could have set fire to explosives in his shoe, was stopped not by government but by civilians on the plane who observed what he was doing. So I think we can look at this day with some gratitude that we have a record, one profound transnational terrorist incident in our history, one, that any other nation on earth would trade that record. It's true, this is the worst terrorist incident in world history. It is. And it's my belief that it will remain so for hundreds of years. That is my belief.
Wow. So you think we should remember that And I kind of want to take you up, even although we're kind of out of time, but I want to just talk to you about, given the fact that we haven't had those incidents, and we have been following all these procedures, like taking our shoes off, has that helped?
I think in the case of airline security, it has helped.
Right.
Obviously, what happens with terrorism is that when one kind of target is fortified, there's another kind.
Go for another target.
You put the bulletproof windows on the building, and then somebody shoots at the people arriving at work, which happened at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. So there will always be the terrorist's imagination starts where the security expert or the government's budget ends. But I think that if we say that these procedures in recent years are responsible for no terrorism since 2001, then we have a big question to ask is, what is responsible for the no terrorism for the 200 years prior to that?
Yeah, well, there you have it.
So it isn't all government. It really is individual citizens. In England, you probably lived there at some time in your life.
I did at one point.
So many bombs with the IRA. So many bombs.
Yeah.
And so
London, I lived there at that time.
Yeah, so did I. And the general public would see a package or would see a suitcase somewhere, and they would be the reason that the thing didn't happen. They would be who calls the police. It's not the FBI.
Yeah.
It's the phone call to the FBI. And that's what all of us can do when we observe something that seems wrong in our culture, even though it will be very, very rare in America that we have transnational terrorism.
All right. Well, stay vigilant, stay alert. It's very nice to talk to you, Gavin. Thank you very much for coming in. Gavin de Becker, everybody. We'll be right back.